All right, I wanted to do a quick video. It's not going to be very long on the Bar Association because there's a lot of people that like to talk about the fact that the bar is actually a British organization and that all attorneys are not lawyers, but they're attorneys, and there's a differentiation between the two, and that because they are part of a British organization, then they should be excluded from being able to hold political offices because of the original 13th Amendment, and that after the Civil War, they removed that 13th Amendment and replaced it with a different one, and la-di-da-di-da, on and on. Now, it is worth, as with pretty much everything in this arena, none of these people have any evidence to support their positions. They just make these declarations, and thousands of people start to follow them and never question a thing. It's actually quite amazing and embarrassing to be part of the human race sometimes, but we all have to do our thing. So this is an article. I don't know who wrote this thing. They have their name. I don't know if it's their real name. It's kind of irrelevant. But I wanted to go through some of this so that we can hopefully eliminate this whole bar thing. So first off, what is the bar? And the bar is that thing between the courtroom where everybody sits and the actual court, which is, so when you walk through the wooden rail into the court, that's where the actual court is, and it's called the bar. It's, you walk before the bar or walk through the bar or whatever, however you want to say it. That's what the bar actually represents. Now, you'll notice another thing is bar as an acronym, which they say it's the British Associated Registry or some bullshit like that. But the bar is an acronym, and all acronyms are all capitalized all the time. You never have an acronym that's lowercase. They're always uppercase to let you know that it's an acronym. So when what we're doing here is we're taking a look at youarethelaw.org, and this is an article that was written up, and it says, who or what is the bar? And then it says, during the 1600s, the Crown of England established a formal registry in London where barristers were ordered by the Crown to be accredited. The establishment of this first international bar association allowed barristers, lawyers from all nations to be formally recognized and accredited by the only recognized accreditation society. From this, the acronym BAR, again, they even admit that it's an acronym, BAR was established, denoting informally the British Accredited Registry, whose members became a powerful and integral force within the International Bar Association. So this is the claim, is that BAR stands for British Accredited Registry, and therefore all of our attorneys are part of this, they're members of this, and therefore they're all foreign agents. And that the original 13th Amendment excluded them from being able to hold office. So let's take a look at this. It's hard to read this, but this is the original 13th Amendment, and it did exist. I'm not suggesting that this 13th Amendment did not exist. However, it was passed, or trying to get passed. It passed through the House and Senate. It got their required votes, and it had moved into the states. And then the War of 1812 broke out, and the states quit ratifying these things. And so this bill, from what I understand, this amendment, is still out there, and it's possible to ratify it, but it never actually finished the ratification process because war broke out, and it never actually went through. At the time that this was going through, it's possible that all of the attorneys that were over here were part of the British Association. Maybe. I don't know. I have no evidence to support that claim, but maybe that's the case. However, if you can imagine any Tom, Dick, and Harry walking into a courtroom and trying to hold a case or try to defend or prosecute a case, it would have to be quite frustrating for someone that actually knows the law to have to deal with people that think they know the law and actually don't. And so at some point they started making a move to try to fix this problem, because they wanted to make sure that there was an organized forum in the courtroom, and that the people that were at least attempting to practice there had some knowledge about what the law was and what they were actually supposed to be arguing. Now, this article here says the government and judicial system within the United States of America at both federal and local state levels are owned by the Crown, which is a private foreign power. And then it goes on to say that the Crown, it says, we are specifically referencing the established Templar church known for centuries as the Crown. From this point on, we will refer to the Crown as the Crown Templar or the Crown Templar, all three being synonymous. All right, so this goes through, and this is a diatribe of holy bullshit. This thing gets, as you can see, it just goes on and on and on, laying out the history of all of these things. But again, no evidence. It's just whoever wrote the article created all of this stuff, put it on the website, and then other people come and look at it and go, oh, this must be fact, and they run with it. Always ignoring the fact that the bar associations in the United States don't use bar as an acronym. It's actually referring to the bar in the courtroom, and they're called bar associations, and each state has its own association. And as far as I've ever been able to tell, there is no affiliation between a bar association, for example, in the state of Georgia, and Britain. I've never found a link between those things. I have researched this quite a bit. These people, you know, they just, I mean, there's just tons and tons of stuff on here. You know, it's just, it's all kinds of craziness that they have no supporting evidence for. They don't even tell you where they get most of the information. Like some of this stuff, they'll give you like Webster's. Let's see if there's anything in this article worth state condition, the circumstances of being thing able to be given these circumstances may be internal. So he's listing all kinds of definitions here, just on and on and on, with no explanation as to why he's even listing them. He starts talking about the Templar again, and it says all bar association licensed attorneys must keep the terms of their oath to the Crown Temple in order to be accepted or called to bar at any of the king's inns. Their oath, pledge, and terms of allegiance are made to the Crown Temple. Interestingly, nobody's ever actually given this supposed oath. Like, where is it? What does it say? Who has it? Who's it filed with? Where do I determine if my lawyer happens to have signed this? And you know what it says. My mother is actually, or was, an attorney, and I'm pretty sure she never signed an oath of office to the Crown Templar. I think that would have been an interesting piece of paper to slide across the desk and have someone sign. So it's all, unless somebody can actually produce a physical piece of paper to show that this stuff is true, all of these words that are presented on this page, it's just a bunch of mumbo jumbo. There's nothing, you know, our countries are embarked on a new relationship for the 21st century founded on a commitment to the values of democracy, the free market, and the rule of law. Whoever owns the soil owns the way to the heavens. 1776 is the year that will truly live in infamy for all Americans. You know, it's just, it's crazy. I mean, I'm only half through this article that I'm looking at here, and it's just on and on and on and on with unproven things. And when you go, you know, here they agreed to the Treaty of Paris in 1783 between the Crown of Great Britain and the said United States. Crown Britain legally was then and now the Crown Templar. This formally gave the international recognition of the corporate United States. And this is another thing, the corporate United States. They have no incorporation documents. They have nothing in legislation that says anything whatsoever about incorporating the United States. The United States is actually a noun to represent the country, or it is and has been used to reference the District of Columbia. The District of Columbia is incorporated. So if you don't want to look up the history of why they incorporated the District of Columbia and you only want to just jump into, conspiracy theories, then, have at it. That's your prerogative. But the United States is not incorporated. And as we've talked about in other videos, that conversation is just kind of stupid. So, what is the Bar Association? Well, let's look at Georgia because it just happens to be the state that I live in, and let's look at the history of the Bar Association here to see what it says. And it says in 1883, a small group of lawyers established the Georgia Bar Association. And notice it is not an acronym. This new professional organization proved beneficial to its members, but since membership was not required of all Georgia lawyers, it lacked power. Because of its nature as a voluntary association not comprised of all the lawyers in the state, explained in 1946, Georgia Bar President Charles Gowen, the Georgia Bar Association was unable to address significant needs, including uniform discipline throughout the state and the passage of important legislation. In 1925, a trend toward unification became evident in state bars across the country, including the Georgia Bar Association, which would struggle for conversion over the next 40 years, enlisting the aid and support of many of Georgia's most prominent legal minds. The bill to create and integrate an integrated bar was finally passed by the Georgia House and Senate in 1963, a move motivated primarily by the concept of regulated self-discipline. And it says the capstone of the state bar said 1964-65 bar president Dorsey is the power of self-discipline, which has been sought so long and is needed so badly. For the first time, all of us can and will be held to answer to the public for the conduct and character of our profession, and here we must not and cannot fail. So the Bar Association is meant, now I'm not going to argue the fact that it's a corrupt organization and that they don't do shit for the public. It's all about managing their own little bullshit game, but it is not part of the British government. And so, or the Templar, the Knights Templar, or whatever the hell other conspiracy theory you want to make up. So unless you can actually provide evidence to support these claims, I would submit that you probably ought to just leave this out of whatever conversation you're having and stick to facts that you can actually prove. Because all of these things, as I've said over and over again, they only serve to hurt those of us that are actually trying to do research and actually find the facts. Because the here's, and I've said this before, but the funniest thing about the people that push this kind of shit is that if I raise the issue with them and ask them for the evidence to support the position that they actually just put forward, they all violate my First Amendment rights to freedom of speech and they block me.